poetry reading live stream.
This is fabulous. All right. Welcome to our next round of Zora Day. We have the very awesome Riley Rayner here and his bird on the way. And Riley can't talk much because he's a bird, but he would like to welcome you, I'm assuming, to our very fabulous Poetry with Tuesday Voices. So, here's to the English department. High five, Riley. Woo! Help get down. All right.
When the stage rattles, the mic rattles.
This was going on at Tuesday Voices last time. I remember that.
What we'll do is just
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to start off first by talking a little bit about Tuesday Voices and inviting everybody to come to Tuesday Voices, right? That's the English department host an open mic poetry night, but we've expanded it so it includes not just poetry, but also short fiction, creative nonfiction, right? People bring all kinds of work to share with us. We've got musicians who come and play and sing as well. It happens the third Tuesday of each month. So our next one is November 19th in a couple of weeks, 7 to 8, same stage, same spot, right? The way it works is you are invited to bring your own original work to share with us. You are welcome to bring a poem or flash fiction or some work of writing that you found that you really, really like and want to share with us as well. You can also just come and listen to others share their work, right? So it works that whole way. And in the spirit of that, that's how we're going to operate today. So I've brought there's books about Harlem Renaissance, books about Zora. I've also bookmarked sections with Harlem Renaissance era poetry. I brought a collection of Langston Hughes's work. So you're welcome. Just like Tuesday Voices works, you can share original poems with us if you'd like. You can share a poem you found elsewhere, or if you want to dig through my books, you can find one. And then also I've bookmarked, of course, things I'd like to share as well, right? And as any of my students could tell you, I can always suggest more reading. So if you want help finding a poem or something, I'm happy to help you do that too, okay? So I thought I would start out by reading some short writings by Zora Neale Hurston, since we're at Zora Fest, right? And when I think of Zora Neale Hurston, one of the things that I think of is just how brave she is, right? She had such an exciting life. You know, she grew up here little and also lived all over Florida, but then went away to New York, became an anthropologist, traveled through Haiti and Louisiana and Jamaica and wrote about it. I even read at one point she lived on a houseboat on the St. Johns River, right, which I think is exciting, and just sort of jumps into life, right, with joy. So I found the first reading I want to read is from a collection called the Eatonville Anthology, right? It was published originally in the Messenger over a few months in 1926. I found it in a text in an anthology called Ebony Rising, right? That you're welcome to check out if you'd like. A little closer?
Yeah, not right up on it, but
okay.
Like one more big step towards it. I think that'll help.
And the first reading I'm going to share, I'm simply going to, I chose it simply because I just enjoyed it. We were talking about it yesterday in the hallways in the English department, and it was just so much fun to read. So I figured I'd start with that one. So Sykes Jones family all shoot craps. The most interesting member of the family, also fond of bones, but of another kind, is Tippy, the Joneses' dog, right? And the reading's called Tippy. He is so thin that it amazes one that he lives at all. He sneaks into village kitchens if the housewives are careless about the doors, and he steals meats, even off the stoves. He also sucks eggs. For those offenses, he has been sentenced to death dozens of times, and the sentences executed upon him, only they didn't work. He has been fed bluestone, strychnine, nux vomica, even an entire Peruna bottle beaten up. Didn't fatten him, but it didn't kill him. So Eatonville has resigned itself to the plague of Tippy, reflecting that it has erred in certain matters and is being chastened. In spite of all the attempts upon his life, Tippy is still willing to be friendly with anyone who will let him. Right, and I was advocating this morning that Tippy needs his own playing card, I think, because he's indestructible dog, right? So that one, like I said, I think I found it entertaining and interesting. But Zora Neale Hurston's work also really incorporates sort of what life in this town of Eatonville is like, right? For those of you who have read other ones of her short stories, you might even recognize the names, like Sykes, right, appears in the short story Sweat. This time he's just kind of mentioned as the family who owns Tippy, right? But you'll see that if you read enough of her works, the same personalities sort of thread their way through the stories. One of the things I also really enjoy about Hurston's work is that, especially if you live locally, you recognize the setting, right? You can really track the setting on Google Maps, or you can sort of find where the story is taking place. And even though it's set 100 years ago from us it's still recognizable, right? So the second reading, and then I'll take a break in case anybody else would like to read. The second reading is in the same collection, Eatonville Anthology, and it's called The Way of a Man with a Train. And this one I chose because it has that sort of geography in it. We'll recognize where the story is taking place. So Old Man Anderson lived 7 or 8 miles out in the country from Eatonville, over by Lake Apopka. He raised feed corn and cassava, went to market with it 2 or 3 times a year. He bought all of his victuals wholesale so he wouldn't have to come to town for several months more. He was different from us city-bred folks. He had never seen a train. Everybody laughed at him, for even the smallest child in Eatonville had either been to Maitland or Orlando and watched a train go by. On Sunday afternoons, all of the young people of the village would go over to Maitland, a mile away, to see number 35 whiz southward on its way to Tampa and wave at the passengers. So we looked down on him a little. Even we children felt superior in the presence of a person so lacking in worldly knowledge. The grown-ups kept telling him he ought to go see a train. He always said he didn't have time to wait so long. Only 2 trains a day passed through Maitland. But patronage and ridicule finally had its effect, and Old Man Anderson drove in one morning early. Number 28 went north to Jacksonville at 10:20. He drove his light wagon over in the woods beside the railroad below Maitland, and he sat down to wait. He began to fear that his horse would get frightened and run away with the wagon. So he took him out and he led him deeper into the grove and tied him securely. Then he returned to his wagon and waited some more. Then he remembered that some of the train-wise villagers had said the engine belched fire and smoke. He had better move his wagon out of danger. It might catch a fire. He climbed down from the seat and he placed himself between the shafts to draw it away. Just then, 78 came thundering over the trestle, sprouting smoke, and suddenly began blowing for Maitland. Old Man Anderson became so frightened he ran away with the wagon through the woods and tore it up worse than the horse ever could have done. He doesn't know yet what a train looks like and says he doesn't care, right? So, okay, I'm going to pause for a second, but if anybody has poems they'd like to read, please. Have you got one with you? Awesome. Come on up.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Nova. I wanted to recite a poem that I wrote not too long ago. And I actually also wanted to give a little bit of background on the poem because it's very important to me. This poem is called Beauty Lies in the Eye of the Beholder. I wrote it in regards to any person who wishes they could be like someone else or be someone else entirely. But that person they admire don't understand why they put them on a pedestal. I wanted to signify that beauty, whether inner or outer, is not subjective. It exists in all of us. So here it goes. Sweet little phoenix, who soars on wings of free, whose Feathers reflect the wild crackling of magnificent flames. Tell me your secrets. Sweet little phoenix, I hear tales of your perseverance. I hear of the way you relish in the delight of life, an untold story of the bridge between the plane of humanity and the plane of the end. I hear how after death you return to existence only to do it all again. Sweet little phoenix, have you hurt before? Are you able to hurt? When freedom and peace and life is such a deep, integral part of your being, is it possible for you to agonize over the cruelty of survival? Sweet little phoenix, I see you. I see how you take flight, mounting into the sky with the air flowing through the blaze of your wings, and I wish I could be just like you. Sweet little phoenix, allow me the chance. Let me rise to your side. Let me be free. Sweet little phoenix, won't you wait for me?
Thank you. Do we have any other poems to read? Okay. I'm going to shift gears, even though I could keep reading the Zora. I had kind of made a list of other poems from the Harlem Renaissance era, and I was really happy that actually some of the poets were brought up in the previous presentation, right? So if you got to see the previous presentation, you saw references to Langston Hughes and Claude McKay, right? And some of those are the very poems I've picked out to share. And like I said, you can see all of my bookmarks. If anybody else would like to read a Harlem Renaissance era poem, I've got them. The first poem I'm going to read is by Claude McKay. And he, let's see. Let me find the one. I had bookmarked a lot of them, but I know I have a specific one. And he was a Harlem Renaissance era poet who came to the United States from Jamaica originally. And this is a poem from 1922 and called The White House. It says, your door is shut against my tightened face, and I am sharp as steel with discontent. But I possess the courage and the grace to bear my anger proudly and unbent. The pavement slabs burn loose beneath my feet, a chafing savage down the decent street, and passion rends my vitals as I pass, where boldly shines your shuttered door of glass. Oh, I must search for wisdom every hour, deep in my wrathful bosom sore and raw, and find it in the superhuman power to hold me to the letter of your law. Oh, I must keep my heart inviolate against the potent poison of your hate. And again, that's an example of Claude McKay's work, who was referenced in the earlier presentation. Well, wave your hand if you'd like to read a poem, because I will just keep going. And so I will. So next, I'm going to move on to Langston, an example of Langston Hughes, since he came up in the presentation earlier as well. And there's also a really terrific Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston connection, right? So sometimes, of course, and I was just reading from Zora Neale Hurston's work about Eatonville, and so many of her stories and essays are about Eatonville, but she was, of course, very much a part of the Harlem Renaissance. And she actually published the short story Sweat, which many of you might have read in your classes, right? It's in anthologies, we use it here, in the journal Fire that she created with Langston Hughes, right? And there was only one issue of that particular journal created. So there's a Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes connection here. So let me go ahead and find the page where I wrote down, like I said, I have too many bookmark problems. And then also, because there are so many fabulous Langston Hughes poems, before I start reading, I do have a collection here I brought called the Langston Hughes Reader, if anyone wants to check it out, right? It's full of not only his poetry, but he has many, many translations of other poets. And as well, he's got the Just Be Simple stories of fiction, all kinds of really terrific stuff to check out. Okay, this poem is from 1925, but later republished in 1959. It's called I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Would you like to read one, or did you? Yeah, sure. Do you have a poem planned?
I do.
Awesome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Bennett. I am your regular host for Tuesday Voices. I'm letting Adrian. She's killing it right now. So, but I'm gonna give her a little break. I also have a Langston Hughes poem that I would like to read. This one's called Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you. Life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I've been a climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you set down on the steps. 'Cause you finds it's kinder hard. Don't you fall now, for I still going, honey. I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Sorry, I chose a short one.
Oh, no, that's okay. I've got poems. Okay, so would anyone else have a poem to share? Okay, I thought I would switch to reading some female poets of the Harlem Renaissance as well. This poem is by Helen Johnson, right? And according to the anthology that I'm using, Henry Louis Gates' African American Literature Anthology, she's one of the youngest poets associated with the Harlem Renaissance, right? And she was born in Boston. The poem that I have chosen is called Invocation, and I really don't have a great complicated reason for having chosen it other than I just liked it when I was reading through the poems. So this poem is Invocation, and it dates to 1931. So let me be buried in the rain, in a deep dripping wood, under the warm wet breast of earth where once a gnarled tree stood, and paint a picture on my tomb with dirt and a piece of bow of a girl and a boy beneath a round, ripe moon, eating of love with an eager spoon and vowing an eager vow. And do not keep my plot mode smooth and clean as a spinster's bed, but let thee weed, thee flower, the tree, riotous, rampant, wild and free, grow high above my head. And I like the, things that attracted me to this poem would be the contrast, right? It's starting with let me be buried with the optimism, right, of childhood. Also the connection to nature, but then it kind of flips at the end and you're looking, right, nature's above you. So. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of shift. That was, what the text says, one of the younger poets of Harlem Renaissance. I wanted now to go to look at another female poet who I really admire her work, Alice Dunbar Nelson. One of the things, that connects her, and some texts will include her in Harlem Renaissance works. This book puts her a little bit earlier. So, sometimes defining things can be kind of a moving target. But she's a New Orleans poet. She was born in New Orleans, right? And It kind of shows, and with other writers as well, that the Harlem Renaissance doesn't necessarily only include poets or writers who were sitting in Harlem at that time and that place, right? But it's a movement that encompasses many, many writers from different sources. And I would even argue overlaps as well with other movements going on in Caribbean and Europe. But this particular poem by Alice Dunbar Nelson, I've always liked, and it's called I Sit and Sew, and it's from 1920. So I sit and sew, a useless task it seems, my hands grown tired, my head weighed down with dreams, the panoply of war, the martial tread of men, grim-faced, stern-eyed, gazing beyond the ken, of lesser souls whose eyes have not seen death, nor learned to hold their lives but as breath. But I must sit and sew. I sit and sew. My heart aches with desire. That pageant terrible, that fiercely pouring fire on wasted fields and writhing grotesque things once men. My soul in pity flings, appealing cries, yearning only to go there in that holocaust of hell, those fields of woe. But I must sit and sew. The little useless seam, the idle patch, why dream I here beneath my homely thatch? When there they lie in sodden mud and rain, pitifully calling me, the quick ones and the slain. You need me, Christ. It is no roseate dream that beckons me. This pretty futile seam, it stifles me. God, must I sit and sew? And I think one of the themes here that would connect this as a Harlem Renaissance era poem are these references to war. Probably in the previous presentation, you saw historical, with men coming back from World War I and having very different experiences abroad, and then coming to a Jim Crow South, right? And these motivations, many of them to move north, right? And referencing here, it's also contrasted with this futility of not being able to participate or do anything, right? And the mundaneness of everyday life and tasks, right? Juxtaposed against that. Okay, I'm gonna take a break for a few minutes. If anyone would like to come find a poem, maybe has a poem of their own they'd like to share, please let me know. If not, I will be out reading some of my favorites.
Rowley wanted to come say goodbye real quickly before he
Bring
takes
Rowley.
off. And we have a lot of pictures of him really enjoying your readings.
Oh, awesome.
He
was an engaged reader.
He was an engaged reader.
We will have to show
So-
up at Tuesday Voices.
Let's thank Rowley for his Tuesday Voices on a Wednesday. Woo! You wanna go?
Yes. Come on, Rowley. Let's
High five Rowley with a book.
Good. High five. Look.
Oh yeah, you want to pass the book to Rowley?
Here, take my well-worn bookmarked book.
All right.
And Rowley, you and your jaunty beret are always welcome to come to Tuesday Voices.
We better give that back so she doesn't have to memorize them. But thank you so much. And we'll get back to our poetry.
Hi, you're welcome to read a poem. Oh, okay. Do you remember what it was about?
It's about him getting graded for using a classroom.
Oh.
Thanks for joining us.